Well, hello and welcome to another Geospatial-Next talk. This one's a crypto talk. I am actually in the process of building another video, which is all about what I was doing last week, which was at the 𝐤𝐧𝐬𝐲 Summit in Palm Springs. It's taking me longer to pull together. I'm also writing a blog on that one. So for now, I wanted to talk about crypto in a very brief talk, hopefully. And what I've titled this one is Untangling the Complexities of Geospatial Crypto and the Blockchain. I'm actually going to provide a load of links to things that I've been reading and watching that I think would be very relevant if you're trying to learn more about crypto, blockchain, and how they're relevant to geospatial. So let's dive in. Before we dig into the details then, let's just have a quick review of what is blockchain. So, one thing to remember is it sits on top of TCP/IP, and I've mentioned in previous talks that we've built that foundation going back to the 90s when the internet was being built, and we've built mobile on top of that. So we've got this the foundation which blockchain is being built on. It isn't something brand new that's coming from nowhere. It's sitting on the base of what we've already got in place. Always think of it as a trusted layer. That's it in your mind. Only ever think of the blockchain as a trusted layer, and we'll dive into that a bit more in a minute. The trust piece comes from this notion of public and private keys, number one, and number two is it's distributed. So if you think about the early stages of the internet, why did we build the internet? Originally, the military were worried about if we had all our computers and data in one place and it was blown up, we'd lose everything. So they distributed computers. That's the same idea behind blockchain. It's a distributed group of data, if you like. And I'm not going to go into the conversation here any more than that, and I'm going to give you links that will help you understand that in a bit more depth. But just know that in your mind. When you hear the term on-chain, that means on the blockchain, as against off-chain, which we'll talk about in a second. Lastly, and I should have a period there, what's stored on the blockchain is there are a multitude of things that are stored on the blockchain. One of them is it's seen as a ledger, and you'll often see that, a distributed ledger. So like in the accounting world, you'll read about the ledger. And again, at the end, I'll point you at someone that walks through the blockchain and shows you a really good example of how it is used as a ledger. Smart contracts are another thing that sits on the blockchain, super important. That's an Ethereum notion. And these are really essentially programs, agreements that are coded, and they sit on the blockchain. The other thing I added to this is asset attributes, and you can think about NFTs as that. That's my sort of crude way of talking about NFTs. And again, I encourage you to go read about what is an NFT. Now, there are other things that are now being added to the blockchains. Those are three examples. So understand this is evolving over time. Okay, that's the blockchain. So the first resource I'm going to point you to is Raoul Pal. He's really very good. He's got a channel which is called Real Vision. There's Real Vision Finance, which this link shows, and then there's Real Vision Crypto. I listen to the crypto one more. He's an interesting guy, lives in the Cayman Islands, used to work at Goldman Sachs, so he comes from the macroeconomics world, really gravitated to crypto, and he helps through interviews you or me certainly, and it would help you as well to understand better this whole world. And he's trying to sort of, his adventures in crypto is what he's got there. So I'd encourage you to listen to that. It's a free subscription, so you can listen to the videos for free, most of them. So they're really good. He's a good sort of general source. I'll give you another, what I think is a good, it's not videos this, but go read about Astral, astral.global. And what I'll do actually in the YouTube, under the YouTube this video, I'll include links to all of these. But Astral is a really interesting project, purely geospatial, blockchain. A lot of the things I'm talking about here is included in that conversation. So go look at astral.global. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that are relevant to geospatial in this world of crypto and blockchain. The first one is this notion of hybrid smart contracts. So I mentioned on-chain. Off-chain is where we're talking about the world that is forgive the terminology, but the Web 2 world that we currently live in. So services that run in there. So off-chain isn't stuff that's on the blockchain. I've mentioned oracles before. Go read about oracles and go read about Chainlink. Chainlink is one example of this sort of evolving oracles world. I've included a link there, which is a guy that's called, he does whiteboard crypto. Sometimes his grammar's a bit weird, but his videos are quite good. And in this one, he actually, and again, I'll provide a link, he talks about what is Chainlink, what are oracles, and it's all animated. So he rattles through it pretty quickly, but it's quite good. He's got other ones there. There's a price prediction thing here. Again, I'm not doing these crypto talks to talk price. I'm really talking about the utility of the blockchain, not the variations in the price of all these things. But he talks about that there. It's up to you to, if you want to pay attention to that or not. I'm generally not paying attention to that. So the second thing that's relevant to geospatial is location and trust. What do I mean by that? So supply chain. There's a lot of use of blockchain in the supply chain, knowing that products have arrived at a destination, they've left the destination and moved on to the next one. So that whole journey in the supply chain, I'm going to include a link to some work by Data61. They're a group in Australia. I think they're publicly funded, and they've written a white paper on this. They've got a really good video that talks about, it's not, I mean, supply chain is geospatial, so they're not referencing in the video geospatial specifically, but know in your mind this is a geospatial exercise. They got a really nice example of how the blockchain is very important potentially to the supply chain. I'll point you at this IoT device. It's a device called Pebble. Again, I'll provide a link. I saw this device last week, and it basically stores your location, and it's got sensors on to pick up like humidity and temperature and all sorts of things, and they're dumped directly onto the blockchain. So go read about that. It's really an interesting little device that you can just buy. You know, you can just buy it and use it, but it's all stored on the blockchain. Huge implications that within the world of IoT. It sort of for me, it's helped sort of paint the picture a little bit about what that looks like. And then sort of related to product tracking, I encourage you to go look at 𝐸𝐸. Some really interesting work going on there in terms of you know, tracking quality of product. That would be food tracking, whether it's a fake or not a fake. I won't go into the details there, but again, very geospatial. Go read about 𝐸𝐸 and see the work that they're doing. It's quite fascinating. Okay, the third geospatial blockchain piece I'm going to note is validate location. There's a few out there, but foam's probably the most well-known one, but it's proof of location. How do I know? How can I rely on the fact that that location that's being fed to me is a real location? I'm not faking that this in the supply chain, this boat's arrived at this destination on time. You know, you can fake that. So foam actually validates the location potentially before you put it on the blockchain. So go read about foam. Again, I'll provide a link. But proof of location is a big deal. Simplifying the complex. This is something that came across the other day. And actually, let me include everything. So it was Bill Tai, T-A-I, who is an interesting investor in the world of blockchain. He's also a guy that remembers, like I do, the 90s. He was actually building hardware at that time, chips and things. So he's seen the internet journey, and he's been an investor in that world. He's a little bit self-promoting, so I will point you to this interview actually where he mentions Uber, but listen to it. He's got some interesting things to say. But simplifying the complexity, he mentions in that interview that Uber would redesign their app if blockchain had been around when they first built it. So cars that are part of the Uber world are actually on the blockchain. Again, I encourage you to listen to, it's only a short interview, but listen to his reference point to Uber. But the blockchain potentially presents a way to simplify what are quite complex applications. So in other words, what's going on in the background of Uber's a geospatial application could be rebuilt using the blockchain and make it a lot simpler. So there's a whole world of simplification of geospatial applications that this represents, the blockchain. So new business models. I'll mention this one. I've done this in the past, but and I've referenced the fact that if you look at the evolution of technology, let's just talk about geospatial. We went through the internet to mobile to today. I look at it as kind of three key phases. the internet and mobile really didn't change any business models. I mean, again, insurance is, I would argue, insurance is fundamentally geospatial. They wouldn't call themselves geospatial, but think about it. Your house is insured against flooding and it sits in a floodplain. Location is all part of that conversation. So insurance has got a very important geospatial aspect to it. But business models haven't changed. Insurance business models haven't changed at all. They're exactly the same. The internet and mobile have just kept the same. They've kept the same business models, just changed some of the ways they market, and you can buy products, etc. But what the blockchain represents is brand new business models. It's going to completely disrupt so many industries. I mean, insurance is one of them. I mean, you can read about the music industry, books, films, the whole supply chain and the business models that are in there. It's very disruptive to business models, and we're only on the very edge of this. I'll encourage you to go. I pulled out one in particular, 𝐸𝐴𝐻, which is building an insurance-based blockchain model, which is very interesting. So I would go look at that. But I think blockchain, again, from a geospatial perspective, it represents opportunities for new business models to be put in place and for adjustments, or put pressure on existing business models as well. So I would say number 5 is, there's going to be a big change in business models, and lots of organizations are going to change what they do today, and new organizations coming into the mix. Web3 is interesting. Web3 is, I'm not going to, again, I'm going to provide you a link to some folks who have written a book. The book's not that great actually, but they've written some really good articles on the spatial web. They see Web3 as the spatial web, and it's 3D and it's inherently geospatial. And they give an example, I may have mentioned this in previous talks, but where we're kind of moving to a world where we have a new interface. So anyone that remembers Google Glasses, that was a sort of a test of things, but in the background, some of these big companies are building glasses now that, in my mind, and again, I haven't really seen this defined in the way that I'm going to describe it, but this is, I think, what we're talking about, is the glasses will be connected to the phone in your pocket. Those will be connected in the background to AI and other services, and then the blockchain will be at the core, at the bottom of that. But if you think about those glasses, I'm very interested in augmented reality. So for example, I could step out of the house and I could look through these glasses, which on the back end may be connected to ArcGIS, which has got all the information about the pipes under the ground. I could see the pipes under the ground, so I could walk along the road and see anything that's running under the road, or, in my yard here. So massive uses of stuff that's augmented. I can't see it with my eyes, but these glasses will actually show me where all these pipes are. Architecture. I've designed a building. What's it going to look like if I dropped it into space? I could actually put the glasses on and I would see this building, even though it's not actually there, that has been designed in CAD, GeoBIM, sits in a GIS somewhere, and I can actually now see it. Maybe I could even walk inside of it. Let's take it to the next level. So the spatial web is this new web that's evolving, and it's fundamentally spatial, as these guys will argue. And I'll point you at a really interesting article they've written all about what that looks like, the stack, and what the potential of that is. So there's a third piece. More on that one actually to come. So the last slide I'll talk about is this was a really good video, the one I've got here. So this chap, Anders Brownworth, he actually visually describes what the blockchain is. So I really struggled in my mind to think, what is the blockchain? And he shows a really good example using it as a ledger visually about how it all works. And he's built this sort of little demo, and it's actually using the blockchain. But if you want to understand how it all works, that's the best thing I've seen. It's really, you'll go, oh, I get it. It's really good. And he's actually done a couple of these, so they're really quite good. He talks this one about blockchain. There's another one on smart contracts, but he's a terrific explainer, and he's had millions of people look at this demo that he's done. But this is also on the Raoul Paul. This is on that Real Vision channel. So worth a watch if you're interested in sort of the guts of how it all put together in simple ways. And then the last one is Renee, who works for Esri. I spoke to Renee last week about blockchain. Renee's done a couple of really interesting videos on blockchain and ArcGIS. So if you're a GIS person and you're interested in how it all fits together, and Renee does a couple of videos which shows, they're not, I mean, like he would say, they're just examples about how you can take ArcGIS and data that's within ArcGIS, and first of all push data to the blockchain, but then also validate things as well. So they're both really interesting videos, and René's a really interesting guy. If you've never met him, first time I met him was last week. Great guy, really interesting and super smart. So so that's it. That's my quick walkthrough. You got a lot of homework from this. Lots of links I'll share with you. But if you're really interested in understanding the blockchain and crypto and its implications for geospatial, that's kind of my goal here. And I hope that, you know, a lot of people are not understanding it. I've spent quite a lot of time dipping in and trying to understand the guts of it. I've still got a lot to learn. But some of the resources that I've used to understand it a bit better, I've shared with you in this video. So, you know, feel free to dive in and understand it better, because I think the future is a blockchain future. We've got there's a lot going to come within the blockchain world, stuff we don't even know and understand yet, but there's a lot of work going on there. So anyway, that's my quick, it's longer than I anticipated, but that's my talk on crypto today. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for joining us on the Geospatial-Next channel. We're focused here on understanding the future of geospatial. That's both how we get to mainstream adoption of the technology and data, and how we start using blockchain and crypto to move things forward. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.